नमस्कार दोस्तों, वेलकम टू द बोधिसत्व एकेडमी। ऐसा कुछ एकेडमी नहीं है, बस रखने के लिए नाम रख दिया। सो फ्रॉम टुडे वी आर गोइंग टू स्टार्ट द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन सीरीज एंड द फर्स्ट इन द सीरीज वुड बी द प्रियम्बल टू द इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. Okay, so let's get started. Now, as you can see, there are two versions of the preamble. The first one, on the left, was the original preamble that was formed or came into existence in 1950, and the one on the right has been in force since 1976 after the only one and only amendment that has been made to the preamble. If you can see, there are words like socialist and secular and integrity in the new preamble that were absent in the original preamble. So all this we'll study in the lecture as it proceeds. Okay, so preamble. What is preamble? The English meaning of preamble is introductory note or a prologue. You have seen in books that you have a preface or a prologue that gives the gist, or that opens the gate to the book, This is kind of a similar thing. Okay, the ID card of the constitution is the preamble. From where did the idea of preamble came? The American Constitution was the first constitution to incorporate a preamble. Okay, now we need to know from where the preamble has been sourced. The preamble of the Indian Constitution is based on the famous historic objectives resolution that was passed by Jawaharlal Nehru on the 13th of December 1946. Okay, it was unanimously moved by or passed by the Constituent Assembly. It was historic because at that point of time it included the features of the Indian state, the nature of the Indian state, that is the kind of polity that the Indian state had to follow. It also included some of the rights that the Constituent Assembly or the Constitution had to guarantee to the Indian citizens, including rights of minorities, scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, and women. So these ideas were way ahead of their time 75 years back. Today we take these for granted. Such noble ideas and modern ideas have been incorporated in the Constitution, the law of the land that we follow today. Now, this objective resolution has been modified to a certain extent and has been given the form of the preamble that we follow today, the preamble of the Republic of India. Now, we will see the preamble word by word. Let me read it. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and integrity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this Constitution. Okay. Now this is the entire preamble, the writing of the preamble. Now we will segregate the preamble into 4 different parts and understand what it means. This actually is one sentence. However, it is complicated, so we need to break it down into 4 parts. The first part, we the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a, this is the first segment. What it means, what it says that we the people of India, who has resolved to constitute India into the following things, who has given the authority? The people of India. That means it shows the source of authority. The authority is the people of India. Now they have given the authority to the Constituent Assembly to organize India or to make India a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. These are features of the political state. Right, state is a political idea. Hence, Indian state has to be given the form of sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. Hence, this second part of the preamble indicates the nature of Indian state or nature of Indian polity. Next, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, political, liberty of various grounds, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity. Now all these are the objectives of the constitution. The constitution makers wanted that there has to be a rule book that provides to its citizens certain objectives, certain freedom, certain liberty, certain justice of all kinds, right? So these are the objectives of the constitution that the constitution guarantees to the citizens of the country. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this Constitution. So, the last segment indicates the date of adoption of the Constitution. The Constitution was adopted on 26th November. 26/11. It's easy to remember. 26th November 1949. Hence, this segment is the date of adoption. However, let me tell you that the Constitution, the majority of the constitutional provisions came into force 2 months later on 26 January 1950. Because of what? Please mention in the comments section. Okay, this is the fourth part is the date of adoption. So this is the preamble for you. Now we will segregate, now we will analyze each and every term written in the preamble. Okay. The first term we'll discuss is sovereign. What is sovereign? Sovereign in Hindi is called Sampravu. This means that we are not a dominion of any other country. There is no one above us. The government of India is sovereign, right? That is, it is independent to take its own decisions, be it internal or external, be it cession of any territory to any foreign country, or be it acquisition of a foreign territory into India. India is sovereign. That is, we are independent to take our own decisions. The next two terms are socialist and secular. They are important because they have been lately added by the 42nd Amendment in 1976. Socialist is actually Indian brand of socialism, okay? That is democratic socialism and not the Marxian socialism. We are more tilted towards Gandhian form of socialism, where we follow the mixed economy model, and not the Marxian, that is communistic socialism, where the state control is supreme. Here we have state control as well as market control, right? So this is the blend of socialism that Indian state follows. The next is secularism. Secularism again has been modified in the Indian context. Okay, we follow Indian secularism, that is different from the West in the sense that Indian secularism is often termed as positive secularism. Okay, this essentially means that the Indian state follows the policy of equidistance instead of complete neutrality. Okay, this means all religions are equally important in front of the Indian state. However, Indian state has no direct role in religious affairs, but it can intervene if need arises. Okay, and the Indian state has no official religion. This is equivalent to that of the West. Okay, now such religious rights have been guaranteed in the Constitution from Articles 25 to 28 and are fundamental rights, okay, of the Part 3 of the Constitution. This means that people are free to choose, practice, propagate their own religious affairs. The next in sequence is democratic. Now this single term represents a lot of ideas. The first idea is the doctrine of popular sovereignty. This means that the popular choice sits in the government, right? People vote, people have universal adult franchise, there is periodic elections, and people vote their choices. The popular ones sit in the government and represent the public choice, right? There is representative parliamentary democracy and not direct democracy, because we have a huge population and direct democracy would not have been feasible, right? There is rule of law. Law has been framed or law will be framed, and the people, the public and the institutions have to abide by the law. That is called rule of law. It has various nuances and sophistications that we'll see in the subsequent lectures, but not today. Okay, then we have independence of judiciary. This is also a basic structure in the democratic principle, that it stays away from the executive and legislature. The next term is republic. What does republic mean? Republic essentially means that the head of the state, that is Indian state, has to be elected. Directly elected or indirectly elected does not matter. The head of the state has to be elected. Okay, for example, in the US, the head of the state is the president. He is directly elected by the population. However, in India, the head of the state is also the president, but he is indirectly elected. People of India do not directly elect the president. One more thing that republic indicates is that since the head of the state is elected directly or indirectly, he is elected and not nominated, that the political sovereignty still exists in the people, because people vote, people elect directly or indirectly, I repeat, but he or she, the head of the state, is elected and not nominated, and hence the popular political sovereignty still lies in the people, right? In case of UK or other European nations and Japan, for example, the head of the state is the queen or the king, right? They are not directly elected and hence they cannot be called as a republic. They are monarchical forms of government. Okay. Okay, now we'll start with the objectives of the constitution. The first is justice. The three grounds of justice are social, economic, and political. So, what is social justice? Social justice essentially indicates the treatment of everyone without any discrimination on social grounds like gender, caste, and race. Similarly, economic justice. What does economic justice mean? Economic justice, in the same light, would mean that justice should be given to rich and poor alike. There shouldn't be any discrimination on economic grounds. Now, these two, social justice and economic justice, together form the distributive justice because they are with respect to the common people of the country, that is the countryside of India. The third kind of justice is political justice, that is equal political rights and access to political offices. Everyone should have equal political rights, right? So these are justice, the grounds of justice mentioned in the preamble. The next term is liberty. What does liberty mean? The term liberty means that there is absence of restraints on the activities of individuals. Individuals are free to do whatever they want. However, there's a caveat. Individuals cannot do anything to hurt others, right? And tell that there's the liberty. This cannot be the case. Individual's liberty ends where the other person's liberty starts, right? The grounds of liberty are thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship. This order should be remembered because this order might be asked in the exam. So we have liberty with respect to thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship. Next in line is equality. Equality means the absence of special privileges to anyone. There has to be no special privileges given to anyone. Only then we can say the society is equal. Certain articles have been mentioned in the constitution which vouch for equality. Equality, the right to equality given from articles 14 to 18 are given in the fundamental rights section. That means they are so fundamental to the societal being, right? Similarly, articles 325 and 326 indicate or give the citizens of the country the voting rights. The voters cannot be discriminated on grounds of their societal norms, right? Similarly, article 39 of the directive principles of state policy vouches for equal pay for equal work without any gender bias. So these are some of the equality provisions mentioned in the constitution, and the essence is mentioned as equality in preamble. The last key term or objective mentioned in the preamble is that of fraternity. What is fraternity? Fraternity means bhaichara, brotherhood, right? Certain provisions that provide for fraternity or the feeling of oneness, feeling of Indianness, promoting the feeling of Indianness are single citizenship, right? Similarly, fundamental duties mentioned in 51A also provide for promoting harmony and spirit of common brotherhood. Fundamental rights and directive principles also emphasize on this aspect of fraternity. Okay. Remember, there's a term called integrity mentioned in the constitution. The term integrity of the nation, integrity has had been added in the first and only amendment to the preamble made in 1976 by the 42nd constitutional amendment. Three terms have been added, that is socialist, secular and integrity. Right? This is the latest form or the modified form, amended form of the preamble that we read today. Now the next question is the preamble a part of the constitution? Now this can be understood from various Supreme Court judgments that came after the independence or after the enactment of the constitution. In the first case, that is in 1960, the Berubari case, the Supreme Court clearly held that the preamble is not a part of the constitution. However, in the historic 1973 Kesavananda Bharati case, which changed the course of judicial review, Supreme Court opined that the preamble is very much a part of the constitution. And again in 1995 in the LIC of India case, the Supreme Court stressed upon this fact that the preamble is indeed an integral part of the constitution. The constitution makers also adopted the preamble with the same sense, and the President of the Constituent Assembly said that the question is that the preamble stands part of the constitution, right? So preamble is very much the part of the constitution. The next important question that comes up regularly is that whether the preamble can be amended or not. However, the answer is very easy. We have already seen that the preamble has been amended once. Hence, the preamble can be amended. But the Supreme Court here has presented a caveat that the amendment is now subjected to judicial review because it should not violate the basic structure doctrine. The Supreme Court has declared that there is a certain basic structure of the constitution, and hence no amendment can violate that basic structure of the constitution. The Supreme Court per se has not declared the exact structure. However, the structure can be derived from various Supreme Court judgments, right? So preamble can be amended. However, there is that the amendment should not violate the basic structure doctrine of the constitution. This will be decided by the Supreme Court because Supreme Court acts as the guardian of the Indian constitution. Okay, clearly the preamble has been amended once in 1976 by the 42nd constitutional amendment, as we have already learned. Another point to mention here is that the preamble is neither a source of power to the legislature nor a prohibition upon the powers of legislature. Okay, it is non-justiciable. That is, the provisions are not enforced by courts of law. Now we'll read the preamble once again before we end this lesson. So, let's start. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and integrity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact and give to ourselves this constitution. Right? Okay. So thank you very much. If you like the lecture, please give it a thumbs up. All the best. Jai Hind.